Thank you all for being here. I was not expecting all of this, so I'm a little, touch nervous, so you'll have to bear with me. Oh boy. So when Caitlin and Amos approached me, I was like, hey, what am I going to talk about? I don't know if you know, I'm sixth generation Georgeson from Georgeson Bay on the non-Indigenous side of my family. Many more before that. I've spent most of my life here. I've raised my children here, multiple bonus kids, and I've got a granddaughter, and so my life has been Galliano based. And the past couple of years ago, I changed careers, made a little bit of a career shift from service industry to, was supposed to be project management in construction. And in summer of 2020, Andrew Simon approached me to work about a project with Immerse in a partnership with White Swan Environmental. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second. I have a trachea condition, so I'm going to pause and gasp for air periodically. So for a nonprofit environmental Indigenous-led organization in Lummi territory, White Swan Environmental. And so that was for our ecocultural mapping project, and things just have kind of blossomed from there. We started work on developing that project. It was supposed to be a pilot project. It's not really a pilot project anymore. Right, Andrew? I think it's evolved past a pilot project now. So I started doing that, and through the work that I've done with Immerse and the Haithcum mapping project and work that my mom has done, from her knowledge of our family, I learned where my grandmother, Sophie Georgeson, where she was from, and I enrolled in a language course, learning Halkaminam. So it's just all these, everything is just kind of connecting the dots in my life, and everything's just going in a circle, I guess you could say. Everything's connecting, and all the work that I'm getting to do and the things I get to take part in, like this, it's what I've learned, what I'm learning, what I know, I get to share, and I get to share with my kids, I get to share with my community, and in organizations and boardrooms, and yeah, so it's all these connections. And when we were talking, I think the first initial meeting where it was all of us for this event, there was talks about connections of like biodiversity, and I was thinking about our language connections, how like the sound that a bird makes is the name of the bird in Halkaminam, and how not old, well, I guess it's old, it's Indigenous languages of the land, and how the connections of what the world is around us translates into the words that we speak in Halkaminam. I'm still learning all those things. Here I feel like I'm rambling. I probably am rambling. But, so yeah, everything has basically come together, and as I'm learning my language, I'm learning about all these connections that is between everything that I'm doing that's around us, the organizations that are the work they're doing. And this past week, I was in Albuquerque for the Tribal Colleges Convention, so that's all the tribal colleges are together and whatnot. It was pretty amazing to see so many Indigenous people that are, like schools and organizations and individuals participating in participating in work for our environment and for now and for our future generations, and how we're all doing our own little bit. And somebody that I met there, they talked about the symbolism of the spiral and how there's those of us that are fortunate to be born within the culture and the language, and they've got that. It's born into them. Then there's people like myself and him who are born on the outside of the spiral. But we all weave within this spiral. We're all connected. We're all connected, and we're all teaching and learning from that, and we're sharing that for us and like between ourselves and for our future generations. This breathing thing is ridiculous, people. Like, honestly. So yeah, when he was talking about those connections, and we thought of like thinking of the circle and how up here everything is circular in connection, like with the land, the water, the sky, the people. And you got like, it's the 4 directions, it's circular. The work that we're doing on our mapping project, we're talking about the circular connections. And it's, after all these years of being raised without knowing those connections, and then getting to do this work, and I can still recall the moment that I was like, yeah, we are. There's so many connections between the way I was raised and the world around us, like just on this island, the work that my family's done. It was like I was stepping into what I should have been, like what never should have been taken, what should have always been there for us. And thanks to Immerse and the work that I get to do there, I don't think I would have gotten to this point of schooling and learning and knowing without that. And going down to Albuquerque. And yeah. So that's kind of my ramble for right now. If you guys like ask me questions, comments, or anything, and we'll go from there. Yeah.
Can you tell us what Immerse is and some of the projects you're doing with them right now?
Immerse is really awesome. Do you want to hear about crab babies?
Yes.
Okay, I love crab babies. So through a partnership with Hakai Institute, is it Hakai Institute? Hakai Institute, the GCA, Galliano Conservancy Association, and Immerse have light traps. And so from April 15th to September 1st, we set these light traps and we go and check them. And we're looking for tiny little crab megalopa and other species. We found octopus in ours. Like tiny, like there was one like that small, like itty bitty. It was the cutest thing. So yeah, that's one of the things that we do that we took on last year. We started and we're doing again this year. We have the Haithacum mapping project that we're doing, and that brings together Western science and Indigenous knowledge. And we're developing an open source framework with GIS mapping that includes like stories and language, the biodiversity data, and bringing community together to learn and share. And there's more to it. There's a lot more. It's multidisciplinary. We have artists, we have scientists, we have Antronig, who's in the UK. He does really cool computer stuff that I don't know. And youth, we have youth. Rue will be here tomorrow night. He's one of my bonus kids. He's doing some sound. with Jack Garton on the project. We have his uncle Levi, who's helped with language, and his aunt, who's helped with other stuff on the project. So we're just bringing people together to learn and share and develop a framework that can be adapted in other areas. And what we're doing here is being mirrored down in Lummi Nation with White Swan Environmental, our partner organization. And that's what I was down in Albuquerque at the tribal colleges for this past week. So that's one thing. There's a bunch of things over there on that display. 2 weeks ago, we did a microscopy event here with Dr. Elaine Humphreys. And so they had the SEM machine, so you could look at things really magnified, super magnified. And Austin, my son, my youngest son, he was in charge of that. He got to do that when community members came in. So we do the microscopy. There's an eel. I'm not involved in this. This is, I think, Andrew's, the eelgrass thing. Is that you? Oh, Emily Adamczyk, our chair. She does an eelgrass monitoring. We do a number of other things, but I'm mostly involved in coordination and the mapping project and our partnership with White Swan. Yeah. I'm pretty sure there's more. My camera roll of crab babies, there's 600 photos of crab babies on my phone. And pipefish, they're beautiful to watch. But yeah, I'm looking forward to April 15th when we launch our trap again. Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah.
You started to talk about circles and spirals.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering what it was in the past that informs your work with Immerse right now.
So when I first started with Immerse on the mapping project, the partnership with White Swan, I was like, oh yeah, my project management can go into that. That works. And I've got some knowledge. I've got the historical connection to Galliano, not only my own lived experience, but my familial, the generational connections here. So I was like, yeah, I can do that. And then through the work that I'd been doing with Immerse, Trustee Wolverton and Planner Chadwick, Nursa Chadwick, asked me to take part on a freshwater sustainability project as an Indigenous knowledge holder. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm Indigenous and I have some knowledge, so let's give her. We'll do this. So I was like, okay. So I was on that panel. Lisa Wilcox from the Trust, she was there. Harold Joe, which some of you might know. His apprentice, Jodan. Chief Bill, he's the one of the hereditary chiefs from Squamish. I think it's Swayzia. And so we're there and we're talking, and they're asking us about our connections to water and traditional connections and traditional uses of the land and all that kind of stuff. And I was thinking to myself, I don't know, we weren't raised that way. And then I'm listening to the other knowledge holders speak, and I was like, 1 second, we used to harvest this, we did this, and our grandpa always said, what happens above happens below, and how it's circular, those connections. And I was like, wait, we were raised with these values and this knowledge. It was just not, it was safer to not be identified as Indigenous. It was just common practice. We was never late. Breathing. Breathing and talking is not awesome with narrowing trachea, just so y'all know. So yeah, it was in that moment that it hit me that we were raised with these values. It was just not it was not done in a way that could have gotten us in trouble or get us taken away. That it was better to just do it, and it was just what it was. So, and then, yeah, once that moment happened, everything kind of pieced together there. And then through the work on the project, The Water We Call Home, which is largely based on my mom's knowledge and history of my family, and reconnecting with family that was taken away 125 years ago or something like that. Through that work, we learned where Sophie Georgeson, where she was from, because that's something we didn't know. Found out what territory she was from, and then through working on the mapping project, I was told about a Hulkaminam language course, and I was like, oh, hold on. There's a connection, Sophie, this language. And I enrolled in that course. And when I first started in that course, I felt like an outsider because I was never raised on a reserve or not connected to culture in any way. But when I went in there, even though I felt like an outsider, there's somebody who was raised at the North End, and he's like, "Are you one of those Georgesons?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm one of those Georgesons." He goes, "Yes, I'm so happy you're here. It's so good to have one of you in here." And so, as I've gone through all of this work, like these past few years, it's like everything is somehow connected, or like it's like a puzzle piece. It just fits in. And here I am. Yeah. Yeah, I actually never thought I'd be sitting up here talking about these things I do that bring me a lot of happiness. Like, excuse me, shouldn't eat before talking. Yeah, the work that I've done on The Water We Call Home and learning from my mom and sitting with some powerful people from various organizations or academia or whatever, and then like working with Immerse and all those, like Andrew and everyone else on our board, and then connecting with our knowledge holders, to being in Albuquerque. And yeah, I never thought that this would be my life, people. Yeah. So I'm here and I'm loving it, nervous, kind of angry at my trachea right now, but you know, it'll be what it'll be. Yeah. So, and yeah.
I was curious, you were saying that you're learning your language, and earlier you were saying that the name of a bird in your language is the call of the bird, and I was wondering if you could
It's the Bonaparte gull, and I can't remember the name off the top of my head because I have not memorized it. It was, y'all know Mike Hobel, so I was doing something with him, and I was like, because in our dictionary it's listed as the black-headed gull, and I was like, what is, okay. So I was like, I'm going to ask Mike next time I see him. So I asked him, I said, this is the name of it. It's a black-headed gull. And he's like, oh, that's like the sound of their call. And I was like, oh, okay. And yeah, and there's been a couple of words that I've seen and that I've spoken, and because I'm a little nervous right now, I'm not going to remember any of them. But it's like, oh, okay, like it's the sounds or the activities or something that they do, like the name means like slap on the water, like the sound of that word means slapping like a tail or something on the water, and
I just think that's so beautiful.
yeah,
All the time you're moving.
yeah. As I learn more of my language, I'm pretty sure I'll be sharing.
Okay.
But when I'm feeling a little nervous, I forget everything.
That's not mine.
Yeah. I can introduce myself in Halkaminam. Short introduction. But, yeah. It's, as I get more, because I'm not quite done my first year yet, as I get more confident, I'll remember these things.
Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I can't help but recall this moment, and I was wondering if you would share. It was this really beautiful moment. One of the special things of working with you on the mapping project was connecting with Florence. And do you remember that day when we had that meeting?
Oh my God.
She appeared on Zoom.
Oh man. Oh, I'm gonna cry. Okay. Thank you, Andrew. Okay. So when this course through SFU came up, and I was, like most, suffering from imposter syndrome, and I was like, no, this isn't for me. This isn't my jam. It's not right for me. I was not raised with the language, the culture. I don't have those connections. And it was the morning that I was supposed to submit my application for the course. And we also had a meeting with Theus, who's also known as Florence James from Penellicut. And it was myself, Andrew, Levi Wilson, Johnny Aiken. Was it just the four of us? And she has connections to both, like she knows Johnny's family and Levi's family. But she hadn't really met with them before, and we signed on to Zoom, and she just started talking about language and how it's in our blood, and you just know when it's your time, it's dormant, and it's your time, and she didn't even like say hello, introduce herself, or anything like that. She just started talking about our language, and when it's our time, you do it, and I started crying because I was like, you just like spoke right to me. Like you said all these things that I needed to hear in that moment, because I was not going to submit my application. Like I had, before that meeting, I was like, no, I'm good. And then she just went on, and it just got me right in the feels, and I was like, okay, I'm doing this. I cried. I'm like, you don't understand how much this means to me. And I'm quite certain that if it wasn't for what she said, I would not have enrolled in the course. I would have just carried on, and I would have missed out on so much. My language, the connections, the culture, the protocol, everything. And my kids would have missed out on it too. Like my kids are like, Mom, what's the name for heron? Mom, how do you say this? Our daughter, if any of you know Haley, she's a tiny, sassy little thing. She's like, how do I tell somebody to F off? And I'm like, we don't have that in our language, but you can call them like a puckered butt if you'd like. And she's like, okay, how do I say that? And I'm like, we call them bad body parts. So that's what she asks about. But yeah, just like learning the curiosity that my kids have for learning who they are and where they're from, and just that confidence that it gives them to know that this land, this island that they're standing on is their home, and how deeply rooted they are connected to it. And then being able to bring in the language and the culture and those practices, it's something that was taken away from our family for generations because it was not safe. And now it's like it's come full circle, and we're getting it back, and we're doing it. And my granddaughter, she's going to be speaking it. My grandchildren are going to be speaking this language. And it's that circle thing again, that spiral, that connection. Yeah. And when I was in Santa Fe, I might cry. I'm doing pretty dang good. This not breathing is keeping me from crying. When I was in Santa Fe the other morning, I had talked to our friend who was in the next booth to us, and we were talking about the spiral connections. And we went, who knows about Los Alamos, like the atom bomb birthplace kind of thing. We went and visited that. And then we're walking through Santa Fe, and there's this portal monument. So we went and checked it out, because Shirley from White Swan, she's very curious about this stuff. She is, if you want to know something about stuff, Shirley's got it. She will tell you it all. And so we went and we looked at this monument, and then we ended up going into this museum. We learned where this portal was is full of Edward Curtis imagery now, and the knowledge that this family has about all of these images and history. If you're ever there, you gotta go check this. I think it's called Rainbow Man. Go check it out. But anyways, I was done in there, and I was walked down to the corner, and there's this image on the statue of a spiral and a turtle. And we're on Turtle Island. And I just stood there. I was like, this is the spiral that they're talking about, that we're all connected to. And we go around and Turtle Island, this is all of us. Been surrounded by Indigenous people all week doing amazing things. I work with some awesome people doing work that, the people that were coming up to us that were learning about the work that we're doing between Immerse and White Swan were like, this is remarkable. How do we do this? And I get to be a part of that. I'm a small piece of the puzzle that's doing this work. So that spiral and the turtle and just how it's in one spot, I started tearing up in Santa Fe streets. And yeah, and then just the connections in Turtle Island and how we're all of this land. And there's so many of us that are making ripples, doing this work that we're doing to make change and reconnect our future generations to their culture and their language. So, yeah, I think that's my ramble. Anyone got more questions or anything to say? I can talk about lots of things. If you want to hear more about crab babies, you can email me. Because they're really cute. Yeah, if you ever want to join me down at Whalers Bay, email me. Yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah. The light trap after dark. You can, the shiners, it's like a feast. They will, come and just mow down on the crab babies and any other little creatures that are interested. Polychaetes, though, those are the worms. They're kind of gross. They're apparently good for something. I just don't know what. And when you get a bin of 200, yeah, you don't want polychaetes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But one thing I did see this summer down at the trap, school of anchovies went through Whalers Bay, and my uncles were like, we've never seen that. And I come from a fishing family. They're like, we've never seen anchovies in Whalers Bay. And I was there watching them go by. Yeah, it was really cool. Mm-hmm. So octopus, anchovies, crab babies, pipefish. Yep, you have to email me first because it's on my uncle's section of the dock, and he's a little particular about his stuff. And and you could all probably talk to the GCA too if you're at the north end. Yeah. So, yeah, but crab babies are awesome. Who knew they'd be cute? Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else? Nope. Okay, I'm gonna go sit back and breathe.